Hey guys, welcome back to Terraria's Calamity mod. In the last 100 days we defeated every boss up until the Devourer of Gods. I was also getting frustrated and I started kind of cheating towards the end of it, but not anymore, not this time. The rest of this playthrough is completely legit and defeating the last 5 bosses of this mod has been the hardest thing I've ever done in Terraria. I really quickly wanted to say, holy shit, I never expected the first part of this video to do so well. Thank you so much. And now, let's get started. On day 101, as some of you guys suggested, I went back to melee, so I gathered all of my old gear together and even made some new gear. I figured I was out of shape at this point, so on day 102 I fought the Profane Guardians. I fought them specifically because I wanted to get this thing called the War Banner of the Sun that would increase my damage by quite a bit, but I never ended up getting it. Afterwards I made the True Tyrant's ulti sword along with some other weapons that pretty much sucked. On day 103 I made the Battle Cry that would increase enemy spawn rates by 10 times so that I could try and farm for the Rover Drive to make the Absorber, but I failed to get it. For a bit more practice I fought and defeated Providence. Afterwards I made the Tarragon armor to help increase my health and my damage. Early on day 104 I started the Pumpkin Moon because I thought I could get Nightmare Fuel, but I had to defeat the Devourer of Gods first, so I just skipped it for now. I then defeated Cygnus to get Twisted Nether in order to make the Death's Ascension, which is a pretty cool as fuck weapon. On day 105 I made a shit ton of weapons to see if any of them could help me out. One of them stood out from the others and it's called the Soul Edge. It shoots projectiles that home towards its targets. After all of my crafting I went to complete the Acid Rain event along with defeating the Old Duke, and holy shit, the Acid Rain event is a lot stronger than I actually thought it would be. I lost to the Old Duke but was able to defeat him on day 106. I then spent the rest of the day trying to defeat the Devourer of Gods, but I just couldn't. It continued on like this for the next few days. I didn't think there was anything left to do to better prepare myself for this fight other than telling myself to just dodge better. On day 110 I tried to farm for the Rover Drive for a 4th time now, but I still couldn't get it, so I just got more potions. Something productive finally happened on day 111 when I got the War Banner of the Sun from the Profane Guardians. After getting this, I continued to try and fail for the next 3 whole days, until I happened to start the final fight. I had finally defeated the Devourer of Gods after 9 whole days of trying. Defeating him opens up a whole world of new items and upgrades, but first I had to get the materials. Once the Devourer of Gods is defeated, it drops Cosmolite bars, which is one main component of 4 that I need, the other 3 being Nightmare Fuel, Endothermic Energy, and Dark Sun Fragments. All of these can be obtained from earlier events, Nightmare Fuel from the Pumpkin Moon, Endothermic Energy from the Frost Moon, and Dark Sun Fragments from the Solar Eclipse. Supposedly, the events in which these materials are obtained from are supposed to be infinitely harder after defeating the Devourer of Gods, but I don't think anything changed for me, because this shit was way too easy. After getting all of the materials, I began to upgrade literally everything I had. I upgraded the True Biome Blade to the Glaxia, my Seraph Tracers to the Elysian Tracers, Vampire Knives to the Empyrean Knives, which are pretty fucking ass, I ended up not using those, and Yharon's Insignia and the Fire Gauntlet to the Elemental Gauntlet. Out of all of the weapons I ended up making, I still ended up sticking with the sword that I got from the Devourer of Gods called the Excelsis, and it's good. I used it for everything. Up next on my list was the Godslayer armor, but I needed more Cosmolite bars and Divine Geodes, so I finished the day getting those materials. The last piece of equipment that I hadn't upgraded was the Asgard's Valor. I wanted to upgrade it into the Asgardian Aegis, but in order to do that I needed the Elysian Aegis from the Providence, so on day 117 I tried to farm for it, but I just couldn't get it. I ended the day getting more Cosmolite bar because I still didn't have enough for the armor. Now that I had all the necessary materials, I made the Godslayer armor on day 118. Afterwards, I made this thing called the Core of the Blood God that increases my health. The next day I tried to farm for the Elysian Aegis again, but I still couldn't get it. I looked into the wiki to figure out why it wasn't dropping, and I figured out that I needed to defeat Providence in the Underworld, not in the Hollow. Once I did that, I got it instantly and made the Asgardian Aegis. After all of my preparations were done, I began trying to fight Yharon, the Jungle Dragon. I continued to try and fail at defeating Yharon for the next 3 entire days. No, dude, come on! Yeah, see? God fucking damn it, dude. Thanks, Tornado. Fuck you. Until I finally bested him on day 123. I finally defeated Yharon. It made me very happy to have defeated him in less than half the time it took me to defeat the Devourer of Gods. Now that Yharon is defeated, this new ore called Auric Ore can be found underground, and when combined with the Yharon soul fragments makes the Auric Tesla bar that is used for almost every single piece of crafting from here on out. It dropped this cool weapon called the Dragon Rage that I really didn't end up using because I can now use the Murasama, baby! Remember that sword I found a long time ago in the underworld that did over 6,000 damage? It's that sword and it is strong as fuck. The only downside is that the Murasama is true melee damage, meaning it doesn't shoot any sort of projectile, and that if I want to use it, I have to get up close and personal. After admiring the Murasama, I got to work making the Dragon Pow, which is also strong as fuck. I finished off the day combining the two swords I've been using all playthrough, the Galaxia and the Arc of Elements, into the Arc of Cosmos, and I was really disappointed. It didn't do as well as any of the other weapons I had now, so I just didn't end up using it. On day 124, I figured I should get the next armor set, which is called the Auric Tesla armor. This armor set required me to combine the Godslayer armor, Bloodflare armor, and the Tarragon armor, along with a Frost Barrier and a Flying Carpet together, but luckily I already had most of it. I only needed the Bloodflare armor and the Frost Barrier, so I started with the Bloodflare armor. This armor set requires Bloodstone Cores and Ruinous Souls, but I already had Ruinous Souls, so I went to the Underworld to get Bloodstone Cores. After a bit of grinding, I got enough and moved on to the final part, the Frost Barrier. Now this item only drops from Ice Claspers and they don't spawn too often, but after a while I got what I needed and finished the Auric Tesla armor. On day 125, I finished my machine and attempted the Mechs. I spent the entirety of day 126 trying to defeat the Mechs, but with how much shit flies across my screen during this fight, I just couldn't do it. I think my main issue is that for the better part of the fight, these Mechs are stuck in a predetermined spot on the screen, and I just can barely reach it. On day 127, I decided to move on from the Mechs and take my chances with the Supreme Calamitas. I figured this fight was going to be infinitely harder, but I almost beat him on my first try.
No. Fuck, dude, god damn it.
I did not end up getting that far again for a while. Later that night, I started my final fight with the Supreme Calamitas. Oh my god. Christ almighty, dude. Oh my god, I'm shaking right now. I'm shaking so fucking hard. I was sweating my fucking balls off during that. I defeated the Supreme Calamitas. At this point, I have technically beaten Calamity, but I am no bitch. I need to defeat every boss this mod has to offer, including those stupid ass mechs, for me to complete it. On day 129, I used this weapon called the Violence that I got from the Supreme Calamitas and defeated the Exomechs with ease. For the next 3 days, I made all the endgame loot that I need. I made the Elemental Excalibur that unfortunately put the Murasama to rest. I made Triactus's true Paladinian Mage Hammer of Might, which was pretty mid. And I made Demon Shade Armor, which, when the ability is used, allows me to deal 25% more damage, but I also take 125% more damage. I spent days 133 through 136 finishing up my boss checklist. The only boss that was left to defeat was the adult Eidolon Worm, and let me tell you, this guy was pretty difficult. My main issue was just that he moved too fast. I just couldn't dodge all of his moves. But after a bit, I was able to learn all of them and defeat it. During all of this chaos, I also grabbed this thing called the Terminus at the bottom of the abyss that starts something called the Boss Rush, and I finished it first try. Now at this point, I was really done with the Calamity mod. I know this is supposed to reach 200 days, but there isn't anything left for me to show you guys, and I don't want to bore anybody with like useless, meaningless details, so I finished off the last few days remaking my house, officially completing the Calamity mod.